we're going to get into a quick MCU redo here for Avengers Endgame. Hero Scroll, why is Avengers Endgame this version of our MCU redo today?
So it is today's April 24th. So on Friday will be the 5-year anniversary of Avengers Endgame being released in theaters. I think we all know where we were at in certain points in time. I saw it that Saturday, I believe it was like 9 o'clock
And
or
Sunday
10.
and Monday and Tuesday.
And then and then I was gonna say, and then I watched it again on Monday. But yeah, 5-year anniversary. And it's crazy to think that 5 years has gone by since this movie, and it is still, for a lot of people, the measuring stick of Marvel movies, which is kind of unfair to Marvel movies because this was just too unique. It was a perfect storm of just storytelling elements, character elements, and development over 10 plus years. Never been done before, to be quite honest. Will probably never be done again at this type of level. Avengers Endgame is truly one of a kind. But we're here to talk about it and talk about what we did like, what we didn't like, and what we would change to make it, I'd say, even better. Because there are certain things that this movie fails miserably at, if I'm being quite honest. But Spider-Man, really quick, what do you think about Avengers Endgame as is?
As is, I really liked it. And it's my number 3 movie in all of the MCU. But it was... I'm never gonna forget it because I had to work at a movie theater during opening weekend, and I had like 105-degree fever on that Thursday night premiere, and they still wouldn't let me go home because it was just busy. But it was a time, and I ended up getting to leave early after like the first like set of rushes, and I took a nap, and then I went back to the same theater to go see my showtime for it for free.
That's savage. Dude, that's savage.
But I had to, dude. Like I was hearing a lot of the spoilers.
Oh yeah, forget work. I gotta rest up to go see the movie.
I felt bad. My best friend had the whole Avengers Assemble and picking up Mjolnir spoiled for him because he had to do theater checks for it during the scene that came on, and he was salty.
Dang.
But like looking back at it, when you think about all the key moments, gets you freaking hype, man. And I really want to rewatch this movie because it's been quite some time. But right now I'd say it's still solid 9 out of 10 when I first ranked it. It holds up to where 5 years ago. It's crazy to think that now we're in like the 5-year later timeline that it was set up with post snap.
True.
Scares me.
Yeah, we're in trouble. But not good movie. I mean, overall box office gross 2.7 billion. The budget was 350 plus million. This was, like you guys are saying, a perfect storm. It's one of those examples where you really don't care at the time the faults and the flaws of this movie. You're like, this is a freaking event. It gave you some of the most epic superhero film moments and dialogue you have ever gotten or maybe will get. It was emotional in a lot of ways, especially it was unknown at the time. And I think that was huge, of like the uncertainty of where the MCU is going to go forward. Like, what's a worst case scenario? Like, we're going to get She-Hulk and I'm just kidding. But the MCU is never going to be the same again after this. And it's weird when you watch stuff like that, to where it's been such a big part of your life. Like, to me, I know this is going to sound terrible, but the only way I can express this is like, you have to put your dog down. You know, like it's the last time you're going to play with it. It's the last time you're going to do this. It's the last time all this stuff. Like you've been my buddy for a long time and got me through a lot of stuff. That's how Endgame was. I don't think it was better than Infinity War, but Endgame was by far the most emotionally attached movie that I think I have in the MCU by a long shot. Um, I mean, my grade for the movie is still super high. I mean, it's that S tier top 3. It's always going to kind of sit in there regardless, even though as time goes on, you can poke a little bit more holes in the movie. It's still one of those that, like, I am Iron Man. My eyes are always going to well up no matter what.
Excuse me.
I'm crying just because you said it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the emotions that this took, man. I mean, you think about it, 2009, I think, or 2008 was Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in, I think, like 4th or 5th grade or 6th grade, which is like elementary, middle school time. So, I mean, that's that's at that time most of your life watching these movies and caring about the story and getting more and more into it, and then finally it reaches its peak. Like you said, we didn't care about what it did wrong. It was just so cool to see all these things and experience it together. And I mean, I would say this is the second best theater experience I've ever had.
Ooh.
The first is first mainly because it was Dragon Ball Z Broly.
Oh, okay.
And that I mean, that was just a different kind of rabid fan base, and that was a lot more fun. But this one was just as good. Well, no, it was second best. It was slightly less, but it was still very fun to be around
Mm-hmm.
and very fun to be in that theater. Yeah. So, kind of going into the next question though, for you guys, what would you have liked to see be done differently for the movie? Because now we're talking about all these holes that we're starting to poke on it 5 years later. And I would dare say that some of us maybe did a year later or a couple months after the film.
One of the biggest gripes I had with it was them just randomly deciding to send Natasha and Bucky, or not Bucky, what the heck? Clint to a planet, just a random planet that they had no idea what they were getting into. You would think like you could send someone that could fly there, like I don't know, was like stronger, but pairing the two of them together for that,
Just
I
nothing, just
get it.
basically butt
Yeah,
naked.
yeah. Like, how'd they even know where to go in the fight? Just randomly going onto a random planet. You got like a GPS or something. They're like, oh yeah, let's just
iPhone.
go hop on that tall mountain, see what happens. But I don't know. I feel like them being someplace else would have been better, but obviously to get the moment and Natasha's sacrifice, RIP, had to be done.
I will go twofold on this. One, I did not like Black Widow's sacrifice, and I don't think that ages well at all. If she wanted an out and real life stuff, like I get it. But then Black Widow comes out and you're like, what the heck? And then you get like this weird passing of the torch to Yelena and stuff. And I'm like, I kind of think if Black Widow was alive now, the Avengers team would feel S tier still. And there would be a team. And the planet would be in much better hands. Her leaving and the way that they handled Hawkeye's situation, I feel like that was kind of weird as a fallout from Endgame. On rewatches, I will say the one thing that I wish was probably handled a little bit differently. At the time, I don't really remember how I felt about it, but logically looking back at it, I didn't love the resolution to the Infinity War sequence when the Tony stuff was cool with Nebula, Captain Marvel shows up, they come back, they have kind of their fun parts, and then they're like, Rocket's like, I found him. he's on this planet, and Thanos is like, "Oh, you guys, I'm chilling though. Like I did what I did," and he's like, "I'm cutting your head off. It's gone." And then they're all just like, "Guess we go home. We got our revenge. Let's do it. Fly back." And then Scott Lang just gets pooped out of the timeline, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, time heist!" And then the movie begins. It's just that weird first like resolution parts where I'm like, it's okay. And I hate having to watch Smart Hulk again when he's doing his like, like I can't stand Smart Hulk at this point now. So that is one thing. I can't watch the movie all the way through. I have to skip Hulk. I have to skip Hulk. I do not care for him in this movie whatsoever.
Yeah, he pissed me off. They pissed me off with that.
Yeah. Yeah, the first hour-ish of this movie feels a little odd. It really starts to pick up after the time heist.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't quite know what they could do to fix it. Maybe just introduce the time heist would be better, like having the opening scene being, you know, them killing Thanos, that's it, you know, bringing Tony back and then getting into it. But it takes a minute, and I know they're doing it to make it like settle in. But yeah, it just ends up making it feel weird. My two biggest gripes, it's two characters, and I feel like if you fix them, a lot of this movie feels better. Thor and Hulk.
Thor first, because I have a point of something that you just had mentioned, which is always something I thought would be a nice fix for Thor. But yeah, why Thor? I'm curious.
So for me, I get what they're trying to go for. The very much very real depression route and letting himself go. And I think you can still keep it. You can still keep Thor getting out of shape and kind of neglecting Asgard or New Asgard and just being a slob, but don't play it for jokes. I think it playing it for jokes deepens a lot of the impact that you're trying to go for. I think if you don't make it funny, like maybe he can crack a joke here or two, but if you make it very much a very real situation where it's like, yeah, no, he's let himself go because he in his mind has failed. He failed everybody. He's lost everybody that he's cared about. He literally has nothing. And if you don't play it for jokes, you don't make us laugh at him just because he's big, it feels like it feels very bully like to me, where it's like, haha, fat guy, haha. And it's like, no, this man is depressed, is sad, it has gone through every worst thing imaginable. And now finally, when he's, you know, when he's thought he saved his people from what in their mind was probably the worst event and losing their entire home, and, you know, finally having a relationship with his brother who he has cared about since the beginning, it all gets ripped away because he failed.
Yeah.
And then when he had a chance to avenge all that, he failed again. Like, if you don't play it for jokes, that story feels so much better. And when he sees his mom and she's like, time hasn't been kind to you, man, that would break any person, anybody. And then when he gets Mjolnir and he says, I'm still worthy, that should be like, you know, him going Super Saiyan again and being like, no, I can do this. I can do this. I can feel confident.
Yeah.
And man, that new Thor would be insane. I think that changing the tone of how they deliver that would be so much better for a character.
I was gonna wait. Because it's a dual thing, and I was like, crap, maybe you should finish Hulk first, and then I'll throw it out there and see what you guys think.
Okay. My other point with Hulk was going to be, I don't like the fact that they just throw away the Hulk personality.
Right.
It's dumb. It's straight dumb.
So stupid.
So dumb, because you really set up an Infinity War that they're battling in his mind. And I think what you should have done to really give like a proper resolution to the story. You can still have Smart Hulk at the end, like Professor Hulk, where they're like, oh, we need to merge together to really, do what we need to do and beat Thanos. That can still be, what you work towards, but really show Bruce accepting Hulk, because that's been that's been his story arc, that he doesn't accept Hulk for what he is and what he does to him. And Hulk, in a way, really doesn't accept Bruce because he's always locking him away. I think if you have them, you have them kind of having like an exposition moment where they get to really talk to each other, be it in his mind, and them being like, no, we need to do this together. And he's like, you know what? I accept you. It's just I was scared because of, this or that.
Yeah.
And having Hulk be like, I was scared because I really felt,
Yep.
in his own words, being like, I hate that you lock Hulk away. Like, it would deliver another very emotional and impactful moment for a character that, let's be honest, is just Big Rage Monster.
Yeah.
In the MCU, at least. But we know he can be more than that.
Right.
Yeah. Two minor fixes, but I think switches the tone of the movie entirely and makes it feel better.
I'm curious what you guys would think of this, because if I could take what it was existing and just maybe move it around, I would take two things, and it would be with Thor and Hulk. And it would be Rocket still, everyone comes together and they're in the Avengers compound, right? A little bit more time goes on, and I think you do have Thor, maybe not the fat Thor, but you have an emotional Thor who's kind of, we lost the game, right? It was my fault. I missed a game-winning shot. Like, it's on me. And you do have a Banner who is Hulkless, who is just kind of there. Like, I can't feel you. I can't hear you. I get angry and you're not there. Like, I just can't, and I miss it, right? I kind of have that of like, I know there's a reason for it, and I want to know why. Like, I care about you, but I'm also scared of you still, right? That kind of play. And you do have Rocket say, I located him. And as soon as that happens, he hulks out. Uncontrollable. And you have a version of Hulk that now finally knows where Thanos is, and he wants that second fight. He wants that revenge fight. He wants to go after him. And Thor says the same thing in his mind, where he's like, I'm going to go for the head. It's been enough time has passed. There's nothing to live for. None of that. And only two of them go to the garden. And they both, you see a nice fight scene of them just beating Thanos down, like down. And Thor ultimately does cut his head off. Hulk gets his revenge fight and pummels him to where he can't move, and Thor just takes that golf swing, and it's game over. And they both go back to Earth, and people, the Avengers are like, we can't stop either. You're both by far the strongest Avengers, so that's why you went, and it's cool. But then throughout the movie, you have Thor just being like, there really is nothing, like, I have nothing, and Hulk disappears. Hulk's nowhere, he's gone again, and it's kind of Banner's search to find him, and they become Smart Hulk by the end of the movie, because he really does need him when 2015 Thanos shows up. That's what I would have fixed. I wouldn't have changed anything else. I could go back and talk about, Natasha, but I would have singled out Hulk and Thor and really leaned into that Ragnarok relationship for them to go and face Thanos, because as warriors, they mutually understand that they lost, and they just kind of lean more into that, revenge, justice is served. Like, we took this guy in the alley and beat the crap out of him. We know it's not the right thing to do, but like, what else is there?
Yeah, no, that would be really, really cool. I didn't get to speak much on Thor earlier. He grinded my gears. Comedic relief was way too much. As one who has been super overweight myself and has been on like a journey of losing a lot of the weight, I did not like what they did with them, and all the jokes and memes that kind of came out with it. Some of it is like funny and stuff, and obviously like humor's humor. But having him go through like what happened in Ragnarok and like losing his eye and like already going through kind of a struggle and him just falling completely off. He should have get was at rock bottom, but like you were saying, Lou should have had some light in him to to be an Avenger and wanna avenge, and then realize, he can't keep going on with that route and to, like, actually care for his people instead of just moping about it.
I think that would have made a clean setup for Thor 4 when he's still
100%.
dealing with stuff and traveling the universe and meets up with the Guardians, because the Guardians and Guardians 3 and even after 2, like, that's kind of what they're about. And you can tell that James Gunn wasn't the person who kind of led that charge for a Taika Waititi movie. Like, the connections, the family, the camaraderie and stuff like that, really in hindsight, when you see Guardians 3, go back to Thor 4 and then go to Endgame, they should have treated Thor very differently. And Thor, and I think in a response, would have found new purpose with a team like that, very similarly to how Gamora did and how Nebula did, being so close to this specific situation in Endgame where Thanos is kind of that common denominator for, you know, the 3 to 4 of them, including Quill. Like, there should have been a little bit more connection from that standpoint too.
And that's why a lot of people were, I remember, theorizing heavy before Love and Thunder came out, that they were like, it's basically gonna be, Guardians 2.5.
Yeah.
Because of the relationship that they established and the relationship that we expect the Guardians to have with people. And then they just, Love and Thunder is a whole different story though.
Right.
And one other character I want to ask you guys about, because it's something I always see a lot of people complaining about, Captain Marvel. Would you guys have done anything differently with her?
I don't even know where to begin. I I completely forgot she was in this movie, I'm not gonna lie. Just because of my she had no reason to be in there. I don't think she should have been in this movie, and she was super, super rushed to be in there just because of Captain Marvel movie. And they marketed her way, 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 way too much that it's gonna be the savior of the MCU and more powerful than anything. Gets bodied by a power stone, which is rightfully fair, but like I don't know. Her whole demeanor in the movie after seeing like Captain Marvel and then going to that just felt really off and wasn't like the same character. I was not a big fan of her in this movie.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this was filmed before Captain Marvel, right? This was technically her first appearance, but it wasn't for us because Captain Marvel came out first. Because this was filmed Infinity War, Endgame, and then Captain Marvel.
Yes.
And I think she really came a little bit more into her own. I think she was a cool inclusion into the movie in hindsight, knowing her relationship with Fury and her being like,
she could have been the one to get like the new Avengers though. Like Fury could have been the one that pushed the button post all of this and realizing that he needs a new team and starts with her. Imagine her being as like one of the first like new Avengers that we still don't have. And that just puts the team straight like 10 times through the roof.
The only thing I would have changed with her is I never would have shown her in the movie, period, until a very, very, very final fight. That's what I wouldn't have had that moment where she had the stare off or standoff with Cap, and all of them are kind of standing there when they walk in, just the three of them or something.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have had her just kind of enter through, blasting, powering through all the ships type of thing, just being like, who is that? And giving her a few more minutes to go toe to toe with Thanos. and maybe like finished off a couple of the Black Order instead of, I get it, Hulkbuster versus, Cole Obsidian and stuff. I think it'd been cool if she would have smoked him, saved Thor or Hulk, and then kind of, stood up with Thanos, stalemated him at least a little bit longer.
Yeah. I think the problem lies with her is that she's in it for like the first 20 minutes and then she's gone till the very end. And then they're like, hey, she's a big deal, guys. Remember, she's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then where was she?
Yeah.
Because she just straight up was like, I don't care. Basically, when she's talking in that like council room with Natasha and everybody else, she's basically that's basically what she says in less words.
Yeah.
And to me, if you don't save her till the very end as like a surprise, last minute save, the only other way that I can see them doing it is have the journey really be told through her eyes in a way where, she still saves Tony, but then she stays on Earth. And she's like, I don't really get what Fury sees in you guys.
Yeah.
Like, why did he pick you?
Yeah.
Like, you're just a guy.
Yeah.
To Tony.
Damn, that would have been so clutch.
And then you have the story play out. And then to the very end, when he finally does the I am Iron Man moment, she really gets like, no, I see why Fury picked all of you. And then you have her, like Spider Brando said, really start a new Avengers team. And you have her carry it on. And you've immediately made her more likable because she kind of gets to go through the story that we went through just in this movie, though.
I think it's important to have characters like that who represent your audience. And that's kind of where I feel like we've had a lot of gaps right now is at the end of that phase. And in this movie specifically, one of the biggest gripes for this movie is like, oh my gosh, I have to watch what? I have to spend how much time? Like, why are we standing in line for this movie? It's forever. And I think it would have been nice to have that level of character who can kind of talk some smack and be able to back it up. Like no one's really going to raise a hand to her because she's just going to just slap you out of the way type of thing, And to start that way, I think it would have made for a much cleaner Marvels movie as well. For her to kind of get softened up from that kind of like true team aspect of like the reason maybe this is why the Avengers, because this is what it's about at the end of the day. You go to No Way Home, it's about like, hey, I did an Avengers thing. We're a team and we're this. You guys didn't have that. Like, this is really cool. That should be the core of a lot of these things are the Avengers still. And to have that perspective from Captain Marvel to be like, this was his contingency plan. Like, you guys are the mightiest heroes. And then by the end of it, she's like, damn, you are the mightiest heroes. I see it. Just like everyone who's in this theater, I see it. Captain Marvel, I think, regardless, no matter which way you kind of shake it down, is a miss in this movie. I almost wish from that standpoint she might have been one of the snapped. I think that would have solved a lot of problems. And she shows up at the end out of a portal and just starts blowing people up. Like he calls her at the end of Infinity War and she gets it and then she fades away. And you would have been like, damn, what would she have done? I think that would have made us anticipate her a little bit more, especially on the heels of seeing her in Captain Marvel. I think that would have been a cool movie. That would have felt super weird, though. I'm going to be completely honest with you. That coming out when it did, that probably negates that $1 billion plus. I don't know. I think we can all agree she's been one of the most mishandled characters in the MCU period.
Poor Captain Marvel. Poor Captain Marvel. She at least was somewhat better in the Marvels. Yeah, she should feel a lot better.
Can we say one massive change that in hindsight really doesn't look good? Like really doesn't look good? Can you guys guess what I'm going to say? I'll give you each a guess what I'm alluding to. We didn't know this at the time. This is definitely a multiverse saga event thing that happened. And you go back to Endgame and you're like, what the hell? Like, how are they going to
Ooh.
explain that? Two things. Same project.
I'm confused.
Oh, is it the Loki stuff?
No, not Loki.
Oh,
Something happened to where they added to the MCU plot. We didn't know about it at the time, but we found out later on down the road in this phase. But it's directly connected to Endgame. Two things
Oh,
that
is it
stem
the
from one project.
Paul Rudd or no, not Paul Ant-Man's book thing that when
No,
he's
no, no,
talking
no, no.
about the events? No,
No. Guys, come
I got
on.
no clue.
If you're watching this, comment, timestamp it. We know what time it is if you drop it. What do you think I'm talking about?
give me a hint. Give me a hint. Give us a hint. Where are we looking? What project? Or what
It's a show.
year?
It's a show.
Show? Oh,
She-Hulk? Was it anything? No.
it's something from Loki.
No.
No,
Guys, come on.
We are not on point with point three.
Oh, this
Is
is
it Cap?
off point.
the
No.
cat. No, I'm trying
No.
to think of all the shows
No.
now.
From
This is how
She-Hulk?
egregious it was. You guys deleted it from your mind. Nope,
It's
not from She-Hulk.
No.
No.
WandaVision stuff?
No.
No, dude, I don't know what other show is
Boys.
What
there.
other shows are left?
It involves Nick Fury.
Secret Invasion.
Yes, boys.
Oh my god. I just remembered.
Oh.
Oh no. It's the vial thing.
And
Freaking Gaia, man. Oh my.
the vial thing,
Ah.
yes. And there's one more even bigger thing. That's like the second point I had.
Rhodey.
Scrolls.
Rhodey.
Oh yeah.
Rhodey.
Oh my god,
Rhodey.
I did erase it from my memory. Because once it clicked, I was like, oh no.
Secret Invasion was a time.
Man, dude, flashback to us like a year ago. We were so excited for Secret Invasion.
Yeah. I've listened to those videos a couple times where like right before there was like 2 episodes ago in the series and we're like, hold up. Hold up.
We were kind of like
Our transition from like episodes 1 through 3 to like
Yeah.
5 through 6. Oh my god, what a flip.
Such a flip. But yeah, I mean, Iron Man had 2 specific moments that everyone's like, damn, that hit. On a rewatch, it definitely did not hit. And it felt really, really different. And I'm not saying it took away from the Iron Man moment because I know it's coming. But when I see like Gwyneth Paltrow, I'm just like, damn, like Pepper, okay. But now when I see Don Cheadle, I'm just like, bro, back away, you scroll fool, like back up.
Yeah, it feels very weird in hindsight. Because it's like the more you think about it, and I get, again, if you look back to those episodes, we were very on board with it being Rhodey being the scroll.
Yeah.
But I think that as time has gone by and the more we thought about it, the more we're like, ooh, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not good. Because if it's the same scroll, which I would feel like it is, because the only other way they could explain is that it was a different scroll. But that means that the scroll would have fought alongside the Avengers, still having the memories of Rhodey, being sad that Iron Man died, and then was like, I'm just gonna go back to being evil. Here we go.
Yeah, like I tried to save the universe. Like they didn't even make an attempt to make that be like we're fighting against Thanos. You know what I mean? Like I have an attachment, but Skrulls are like, forget humans. Like we're out of here. I'm like, didn't you just cry over one? You had like a final like. That's a massive disconnect. It feels odd, and just it feels even stranger going back and watching this movie. So
yeah,
truthfully,
I'm sad you brought that memory back.
I'm sorry. I had to. And then the whole thing at the battlefield of like Gravik and like collecting the DNA from the battlefields for like Super Skrulls.
What was that vial called?
Garbage.
I forget. We will give a shout out to someone in the comments on our next live stream if you could remind us what the vial was called
Yeah.
without looking it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. I don't even remember at this point. I'm a bad point through here.
All I know is Gaia consumed it, and that's all I know. And where is
Forgot it.
she at now? Oh my god,
She's
Dude.
somewhere in Britain, in England.
That's one of those like they slap the file and they're like, "Hey, you guys got to solve this crime," and you just push the envelope and you're like, "No, I'm good." Like, let's just put that one in like unsolved cases and just kind of just leave it. And they're just like, "Are you
We'll
sure?"
put it
Like,
back.
yeah, kind of.
We'll put it back in the never to be seen again.
Yeah. One other thing that I did want to bring up here to kind of end or final. We have 2 more or 3 more finals left, but fan service. Did this do it right? Did it hit the nostalgia and the fan service? And what was your favorite kind of fan service moment that they pulled off in the movie?
I'm torn between the Avengers Assemble and just Cap wielding Mjolnir for the first time. Those are just iconic moments. But I'm gonna have to go with Mjolnir because I was least expecting that.
Okay.
And that was just beautiful. Paid off the Avengers 2 post credit scene of if
Yeah.
Cap was worthy or not. So it fit continuity wise there too. You can't say it was just pure fan service.
Yeah,
And that was legit.
it was.
It was legit. Those are good.
I might have to go with the Avengers Assemble moment. Like, I know we've had big like assemble moments like that after with, like, for example, No Way Home, seeing all 3 Spider-Man. But I think the big difference is that seeing all the characters that we've seen in a 10 plus year story just come out all at once and be together, that like something straight out of a video game or a comic book, and in this case a comic book, like I don't think we ever expected to see something like that on screen.
Yeah.
And it delivers every time. It's never not cool.
Yeah. Guys, I'm getting straight goosebumps right now, and like there's something. It is the Avengers Assemble moment, but I remember getting super emotional watching it through when like Tony got beat down, Thor's beat down, like Cap like pulls on his like straps and he's like, "Let's go, like I'm gonna face Thanos. If I gotta do it, I gotta do it." And then you hear the intercom or the radio start like crackling back in, and you hear "On Your Left," and I was like, "Damn!" And then the music starts hitting, and then everyone comes out, and then you get Avengers Assemble. Like that moment and chunk of time begins for me with the "On Your Left."
Yes.
And straight goosebumps.
Spider-Man swinging in.
Yeah. Oh, dude, everyone gets their intro. You see everybody come back. It is just such a cool moment that, yeah, I mean, you live action wise, that's probably, I think the only other thing it's not the scale, but the only other thing that I thought of probably before this was like Power Rangers, when like all the Reds assembled and you kind of had like that one where like everyone rolled up and you're just like, whoa, that was more of like a let's go versus me. I'm like, my boys, my boys are back.
It's
I'm not crying, you're crying.
It's sadder in hindsight, but Chadwick Boseman coming out, like,
yeah,
so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, this movie's different, man. This movie's I know we kind of talked about things that we would change, but if you're new here, that's just what we do. We talk about how we would make things personally better, because part of loving something is being able to criticize it and still love it. And I think for all of us, We are still going to love Endgame no
Oh, yeah.
matter what. The MCU can do 1,000,001 secret invasion type projects where they come in and tell you that, you know, Iron Man was also a scroll. They can mess it all up, but we will still love Endgame because it was just a very different moment in time that I genuinely don't think will ever be done again. And we could talk about all the weird character moments and decisions, but at the end of the day, this is special.